Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
What's up, guys? This is Kyle. Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast. Today, I'm going to share a quick little tip that I learned this year about home equity lines and utilization, like credit utilization. So, something to be very mindful of, right? A lot of us are very bullish on using home equity lines for investing. You know, it's a neat little form of leverage that you can use on your journey that becomes available to you after you've built up a fair amount of equity in a property. Typically, it'll be like a primary residence and that kind of thing. I know that there's like rental home equity lines out there. Don't know too much about them at this point, to be honest with you. But yeah, so basically something that I ended up realizing is a few months back, or I should say earlier this year. I'll start there before I progress to what happened a few months back. I ended up leveraging a home equity line for an investment, and I tied up a very, the majority of the line. I'd say probably a good like 90% of the line. And what everything was cool. Like, it was in the form of a promissory note. It was getting a 10% return. Monthly distributions, that type of thing. And I ended up, if you want to kind of learn more about what I did, I made a podcast episode very, very recently. I believe it was it might have been last week on Wednesday, from when this episode comes out on the, on the January 3rd, I believe is when this little episode's coming out. But yeah, so I did a 1-year note. And, I was getting paid monthly, like everything was cool. And my car, like my vehicle, ended up crapping out on me. And long story short, like, it was an old vehicle, like it was just, kind of time. It ended up dying on me. It was a little 4-cylinder Nissan Sentra that was like a 2009. Ended up crapping the bed, and there was 2 cylinders that went kaput out of 4. So basically it was like a little flipping go-kart. Which isn't very good on the highways around Middlesex County. And it was way past the point of being worth it to try to fix it, So long story short, I ended up buying something. I financed it. And what I thought was incredibly interesting was when I looked at my credit, because you can look at your credit through like one of the, you can run your reports and stuff like that. But I, kind of did a little glimpse through my credit card app to just kind of get, the pictures of where the scores are at, like, the factors that go into it, just kind of size up where I'm at, because I knew that I was getting financing from a local bank. And something to keep in mind, this is something that I've never heard be talked about before. But something to be very, very mindful of is your utilization and being lendable when you're using a home equity line to invest in something, or even like just using it for home improvement projects, whatever. Because so my credit score was, I want to say like 760, earlier this year. And I ended up looking at through the credit app, and my score was like 716. I'm like, oh, what the hell? Like, that's weird. Like, no, like, why is that like that? And the more that I, kind of read between the lines and dug into some of the factors that go into calculating the score, it said that my utilization was poor. Like, it was bad. Like, it was crazy. And I was like, oh, like, what the hell? Like, that's weird. Like, yeah, I use my card and stuff like that. But like, I know you're not supposed to go above 30% or even like lower than that, to make the credit gods happy and all that. I'm kidding about that, but not really. So like, it's not like I'm like a insanely like crazy credit card user, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I never like, I don't have a huge debt or anything like that. My utilization on my credit card itself is usually insanely small. Um, but where the utilization was crazy was on my home equity line. So that was showing up because it's recourse debt. You know what I mean? Like it's my property is in a under my personal name. The home equity line is obviously tied to that in a second lien position. So it's something that will show up when your credit is ran in any sort of capacity. So the thing that I thought was incredibly interesting is there's a couple thorns or another side of the sword, another side of the blade to a home equity line. And I say that because it's a very, very beautiful vehicle to be able to leverage, especially in the real estate investment sector. Because you're buying property anyway, most of us are looking for equity, and projects to build equity fast and that type of thing. And, you can use that to keep buying and stuff like that. It's an absolutely awesome vehicle if the numbers and situation make sense, right? But something that I didn't realize until I did was that because I had the majority of that line at work for me, and it was an investment, it was a positive investment, and everything was going hunky dory. My credit utilization suffered. So, and my credit score went down, and my lendability was still like solid, you know what I mean? But it wasn't what it could have been. And like my rate was still pretty solid. That I ended up getting from the bank. Like I'm not gonna complain, you know what I mean? But it basically could have been a lot better if I had that principal, paid back in that investment. So like just that's something to keep in mind is like, I had this black swan event where like my car shit the bed, like totally wasn't expecting to buy something, buy another vehicle, especially because it's a liability and we try not to buy liabilities in our community. um, but my point being is to like just kind of be careful when leveraging a home equity line to invest or using a vast majority of that, available balance, because you're able to leverage a lot of capital that you didn't put in extra hours at work for, that you didn't make commissions for, etc. And as long as you're able to like arbitrage the interest rate and beat it and have everything make sense, it's phenomenal. But the other side of that coin is having your credit score go down a little bit, having your utilization go fucking crazy, depending on if you're using a vast majority of it. So when your credit is pulled, if you're looking for properties that are under your name and not, just under like buying it with an LLC and the whole thing, that's something that's going to come up. I know it's a very like unique situation. For many of us, like a lot of stars have to align to be kind of like in the position that I was in, where you had this, 3-family property, had this home equity line, had something else that needed to be financed that, kind of happened out of the blue. In my case, it was a vehicle. And, I just so happened to have a 1-year passive investment that was active at the time and like halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, but I don't have it back yet. But because I'm, using it and it is recourse debt, like I'm using a ton of it out of the entire balance. So the banks like freak out a little bit and be like, oh my God, like he's using all this crazy leverage. So that actually dropped my credit score and, increased my utilization basically through the flipping roof. So one thing that I will mention, guys, is that's just how it happened for, because I was purchasing a vehicle. I don't know yet. I still need to get a lot more information and have more conversations about, leveraging a line for a property. And like when you like actually draw that, because you don't want to be caught with your pants down, essentially kind of like I was, with the vehicle purchase where, you have $50,000, $80,000, $100,000 out. And now you go to get pre-approved and the bank's like, holy fucking shit, dude. Like you gotta chill out because your utilization's crazy. And essentially kind of like the timing for when you take those things out. My advice to you guys, because I'm not sure, is to talk to a lender. And if you're looking to leverage home equity line money, disclose that very quickly and kind of see what they say. That's what I'm going to be doing in the very short term future, is like seeing how, like, what are the intricacies of that and what do they look like? And how do I make sure that I play my cards correctly and don't basically drop my purchase power and my lendability accidentally by doing something too early. And yeah. So that was a very interesting lesson to me. Luckily, it didn't make a huge difference, but I know, like, as soon as I get that principal back in a few months and I pay it back to the line instantly, it'll probably take like 30 days, but my utilization is probably going to go back down to like an insanely small number. And that's going to fix, basically my credit score, because everything else is solid for the most part. You know what I mean? But yeah, definitely keep that in mind, my friends. And yeah, I'd love to hear, how, investing with home equity lines has gone for you guys. Have things gone insanely well and you've built like a super crazy, portfolio from it? Have things not gone well, with the home equity line and you've been put in some really challenging situations and gotten through it? I'd love to hear it all, my friends. So yeah, but yeah, I thought this was a neat little tip that I absolutely wanted to share with you guys, because it's something that I personally just went through literally like a few weeks ago, technically. Because I ended up buying a vehicle and I love it very much, but yeah. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, if you guys could, please leave a rating and a review on the show. If you could, please share this little episode with somebody that, might want to invest with the home equity line or looking at the intricacies of it. And yeah, and see what happens. And like I said, talk to your lenders before, if you're looking to do anything like this, and leverage that capital for other properties and that type of thing. Just make sure you have the conversations up front and figure out how it works so you don't accidentally mess things up for yourself, because it is debt that you're using. It's not just straight, cash from a cash out refi type of thing. So just be careful, play your numbers the right way, have the right conversations with the right relationships, right people, and have a fun time building wealth, my friends. But alrighty, I hope you guys have an absolutely awesome Wednesday today, and I will talk to you in the next one. Goodbye.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.